For 50 years, the advice never changed. Get the degree because it's the best investment that you'll ever make. And the data really backed it up. College grads earned more, stayed employed longer, and weathered recessions better than everyone else. Credential was like armor, and it protected you. But here's what just changed. A brand new economic study used live government jobs data to track what AI is actually doing to workers right now. Not in 2022, not in projections for the future, but right now. And the workers getting hit hardest aren't who anyone expected. It's not the truck driver with the self-driving car or the warehouse worker being replaced by a warehouse robot. It's the analyst, the consultant, the lawyer, the person who got the expensive degree and then landed the safe office job. $3 trillion in student loan debt is backed by a labor premium that's quietly eroding. And almost nobody is running the numbers on what happens when it finally disappears. You know that feeling when you're just talking to your friends and everyone's saying that the market's fine, but then you check your brokerage account the next morning and it's not? That's basically what just happened to 3 years of AI won't kill your job research. Here's the thing, the studies weren't lying, they were just measuring the wrong AI. Every single measuring headline, or every single reassuring headline from 2022 and 2023 said that AI complements workers, minimal disruption, productivity gains for everyone. That was all based on early ChatGPT, the version that couldn't reliably count the R's in the word strawberry. Of course, that wasn't replacing anyone. Researchers looked at it and they said, nothing to see here, and they published their findings. By the time the ink was dry, AI had already left that version of itself in the dust. The researchers at Notre Dame, Jacob Deminsky and Young-Suk Lee, built something nobody else had, a dynamic measurement system. Instead of freezing AI's capabilities at 2022 and calling it done, they tracked AI's capabilities in real time as they actually evolved. Then they wired those evolving scores directly into US current population survey data, the same monthly jobs data that the government uses to calculate its official unemployment rate. And the result is the closest thing that we have to a live economic early warning system for AI disruption. And right now, the lights are flashing red. I'm Evan Goldstein. I'm a licensed professional engineer and a data scientist. And I'm building AI Capitalist to arm you with AI tools you'll need to go out and conquer the world. Today, I'm going to show you 3 things: how this measurement system actually works and why it's different from everything before it, what the data shows and who's bearing the cost, and what this means for your career and your business and your team. Right now, not in some theoretical future. So let's start with the tool they built, because once you understand it, everything else kind of clicks into place. Picture the typical AI and job study as a photograph. Researchers look at every occupation, figure out which tasks it requires, and then they ask whether AI can do those tasks. The answer shapes their exposure score. Useful, logical, but there's one big problem. The photo was taken in 2022 and never updated. Deminsky and Lee built a video instead of a photo. They mapped AI's entire evolution across 5 distinct stages, and each one represents a real documented leap in capability. And then they tracked how every occupation's exposure score changed as AI crossed each new threshold. Think of it like a video game where the boss gets harder at every level. Stage 1 and 2 are the early game, basic machine learning, and the first wave of ChatGPT. AI could write a passable email and then summarize a document at the beginning. It was a useful tool, but not an existential threat to most workers. Stage 3 is when AI gets eyes. Multimodal models arrive in October of 2023. Now it can read charts, can analyze images and interpret video, and then generate visuals. The marketing department starts feeling the heat. In stage 4, AI enters the thinker phase. That's around December of 2024. OpenAI's O1, Claude's reasoning model. This is AI that doesn't just answer. It works through complex multi-step problems in a way that a trained professional does. This is where the ground starts shifting under consultants, analysts, and lawyers. Now, stage 5 is the endgame, agentic AI. It doesn't wait to be asked. It books the meeting, writes the report, sends the follow-up, flags the exceptions with minimal human involvement. Here's the number that should stop you cold. The jump from stage 1 to stage 3 took years, and the jump from stage 3 to stage 5 took barely 12 months. We're not on a curve, we're on a cliff. The researchers plugged every occupation into all 5 stages. They watched how exposure scores evolved, and then they asked, When AI crossed each of these thresholds, what actually happened to workers in exposed jobs? All right, let's get into this study here, and we're going to start with figure 2, which the researchers called exposure over time. And this is a set of 3 line graphs plotted side by side, and it's a revealing visual, probably the most revealing in the paper. The left panel compares the average exposure scores generated by Claude and ChatGPT across 5 stages of development. It's looking at, for every profession, how exposed are they? How much are they dealing with AI in their day-to-day work lives? The lines climb like a staircase. When they start around 25 at 30 at stage 1, and then they get above 80 by stage 5. What's interesting here is that Claude scores higher than ChatGPT at every stage, which you wouldn't think because ChatGPT is used much more frequently just publicly in the general public, but Claude seems to be the one that's taken the jobs. Now, the middle and right panels break it down by occupational groups, and this is where it gets personal. Because office and administrative support, sales, and management, they ride the highest lines on that chart, sitting at the very top of the exposure range where construction and installation repair, service occupations are at the bottom. It's kind of what you would expect. If you're an admin, you're sitting there staring at a computer screen all day. If you're hammering nails into boards, you're not. The jobs that are already most exposed are going to get hit harder as the technology leaps forward. It's like watching a race where the front runners keep accelerating while the pack behind doesn't really pick up as much speed. That's a bird's eye view, so wait until you see how this plays out when you weigh it by how many people actually work in these jobs. All right, so now we're in figure 4 and the distribution of employment by change in exposure. So it's 2 stacked charts, area charts, and one's for GPT, one's for Claude. And what they're doing is they're taking those 513 occupations that they examined and they're reweighing them by total employment. So the x-axis is showing how much each occupation's exposure score jumped between stage 1 and 3. And then on the y-axis, it's showing the total employment in millions. And what's jumping off the page is the shape. It's very clearly bimodal, you would call it in data science and statistics. It's got 2 humps. On the left side, there's a massive peak driven by transportation and service occupations and production jobs. And these are millions of workers and roles where exposure barely changed. On the right side, there's a second peak that's management, office, admin support, and professional occupations, lawyers, engineers. And these represent another enormous chunk of the workforce where exposure shot up dramatically. And the valley in between, it's pretty empty. The American workforce is split into 2 camps, jobs that AI is rapidly learning to do and jobs that it can't touch yet. There isn't a lot of middle ground. And when you remember the right side includes some of the largest employment categories in the entire economy, there's office workers and managers and professionals, it's starting to look less like an academic chart and more like a warning siren. You might be wondering whether the jobs getting hit hard are at the low-paying ones or the high-paying ones, which brings us to figure 5. Figure 5 is bin scatter plot, but it's answering that question with very uncomfortable clarity. X-axis is the log of yearly income, and the y-axis is how exposed they are to AI, and each dot is an average across all these occupations. The relationship is very strongly positive, and it bends upward. So that means that occupations earning less, clustered on the left side of the chart, saw exposure changes at around 18 to 22 points, but as you move to the right, to the higher income professional analytical roles, the dots climb sharply with several bins punching above 28 points. Now, I can tell you this just from personal experience. I went and got my master's degree in data science and was looking forward to getting into analytics. And I found that once I was graduating, all the data scientists were getting laid off. All the analysis people were getting let go. And I'm finding that I'm actually, the part of my job that's the most relevant is where I'm actually out looking at equipment, talking to people, dealing with physical things in the real world. And I can apply the data science, but it's not just going to become a data science job. That may be something that's going away. When you can just ask ChatGPT to do your data science for you, why would you hire someone for that role? Now we get to figure 6, which is the real gut punch of the paper. These are 4 residualized scatter plots, and each one is comparing the change in ChatGPT generated AI exposure to a different labor market outcome. So each dot is an occupation, and the size of the dot is telling us how many people that the study surveyed in that job. And then the red highlighted dots mark occupations in the top quartile, so the highest of AI exposures. Now the slope is negative here of this line that we're running through it. Occupations in the top right quadrant, the exposed ones, are bleeding jobs. You can see that writers and authors are sitting far to the right with huge unemployment, with just explosive unemployment, major drops in employment. Bookkeeping, accounting, and auditing clerks cluster in the negative territory too. I used Claude to do a lot of my taxes for me. Not the whole thing, but a lot. But elevator installers and repairers and boiler makers are on the far left side. They have a little bit of exposure changes, and they have stable or positive employment. Now, when we look here at the top right, the exposure versus the change in employment rate, writers and authors and interpreters and translators are out there on the right side of this chart with rising unemployment. News analysts, reporters, and journalists seem to be there too. And on the left, chemical engineers and probation officers are showing declining unemployment. The pattern's clear is that the more exposed your job is, the more likely you are to become unemployed.
And if you feel you're getting value from this video, I'd appreciate it if you'd push the like button. Pushing like lets me know I'm making content that you want to see, and it spreads that content to others.
And then here in figure 7, they did the same thing with ChatGPT, and it's the same results. The more AI can do your job, the less likely you have a job. Let's let all this sink in for a minute. The welder may be safer right now than the management consultant, and the plumber is safer than the data analyst. And it's not a coincidence, it's basic economics. A data entry clerk costs the company $40,000 a year, but a senior financial analyst costs $180,000. So if you're a CEO and AI can absorb 60% of the analyst's workload, the math is really obvious. The economics of displacement run uphill. AI isn't going after the cheapest labor first, it's going after the most expensive. And that's what we're calling the uphill collapse. And almost no one's talking about it. So with all that, what's AI capitalists read on the story? First of all, let's be clear about what this research actually establishes. This isn't a blog post or a think piece. It's a rigorous economic study that's built on the same government data set that we use to calculate official U.S. unemployment rates, with a methodology smart enough to track AI's capability as they actually evolved. So when that kind of study shows employment declining and unemployment rising, in the most cognitively demanding occupations, no less, the other studies show its fine response doesn't hold up. Those other studies measured a weaker AI and were just predicting the future. The central finding here is that the damage scales with capability. The smarter AI gets, the faster the effects compound. And AI hasn't stopped getting smarter. Now, the business angle is something most people are missing entirely. Every instinct says that AI disruption would flow downhill, but it's flowing uphill. So the second order effect is going to be a knowledge time bomb, and it's ticking for professional service firms right now. Expertise doesn't appear out of nowhere. It gets built through years of doing the hard, boring, foundational work. The junior analyst writing 47 research summary papers learns something from writing the 47th research summary. The engineer who's just designing plumbing piping for toilets and sinks in a building learns something every time he does it. The institutional knowledge transfer mechanism is also going to break down. Companies are hollowing out their talent development systems right now, quietly, and most of them are not going to feel the consequences until it's too late to reverse. The third order effect goes back into what I said at the beginning. Higher education, especially expensive professional degree programs, is built on a simple premise. This credential unlocks a labor market premium, and that premium is the financial justification for the $200,000 in student debt some people take out. Law school, MBA programs, financial analyst training pipelines, all of them feed into cognitively demanding analytical careers. Those are exactly the careers that are shrinking in this data. And if the premium erodes, then the trajectory that this study suggests is that the downstream effect is going to be on student loan defaults, on tuition-dependent universities, and on professional licensing markets. And these systems could all collapse. And it's something that nobody that is modeling the scenario with any seriousness is bringing up with Washington. And if you want to learn more about using AI to solve your problems, come to check out www.aicapitalist.biz and we'll talk business. So I'm going to leave you with one little read of my own here. This isn't fundamentally an AI problem, it's a speed problem. Every major technology transition in history, the printing press, the steam engine, electrification, or the internet, eventually created more jobs than it destroyed. The efficiencies generated produce more revenue, which can then be directed to other parts of the economy. The economists who are saying that the long run will be fine probably aren't wrong, but they're measuring the wrong time horizon. The transition is where the damage concentrates. And the difference this time is that AI is evolving from stage 1 to stage 5 in about 3 years. Previous automation waves took 30 to 50 years to fully unfold. The Industrial Revolution in England took hundreds of years. Human institutions like educational systems and labor markets and regulatory frameworks and social safety nets, they're all built to adapt over decades. And even now, a lot of these institutions are becoming outdated and are failing us. But they were certainly never designed to move at the speed that AI is moving. Now, that gap between technological velocity and institutional adaptability, that's where the real danger is. So I would predict that in 2027, at least 3 major professional services firms, a law firm, a consulting firm, and a Big Four accounting practice are going to announce workforce reductions of 30% or more that can be attributed specifically to AI substitution, not a bad economy. When that happens, the public conversation shifts permanently from are there effects to how do we manage them? So here's a question worth sitting with. Are we in a bumpy but temporary transition that eventually benefits everyone? Or is this something genuinely different? Because AI improves continuously and automatically, but human workers don't. Or is the real danger the one hiding in figure 4, that we remove entry-level work, and as we do that, we destroy the pipeline that builds expertise. We end up with a professional class that holds credentials certifying them for work that a machine already learned to do. Let me know in the comments.